What is going on, everybody? Welcome to week 14 of Francess and Friends. Just watched the Cincinnati Bengals pull a little screw job. How many of your betting tickets got screwed because a little Jake Browning throwing for almost 350 yards last night? I don't know, but I do know that we got an unexpected, exciting Thursday or Monday night primetime game. You think maybe we can get something like that on Thursday? Because I don't know if you saw that preview graphic. We got Bill Belichick representing the Patriots skill players, one of the all-time hilarious graphics that you'll see to promote a game. And last night in that game, we saw Trevor Lawrence go down. And then, you know, there's been a bunch of memes of him gimping off. And we'll talk to Greg about that when he comes on, about something he tweeted last night that went viral, and all the people who, you know, had their opinions on it and what happens when you tweet some nonsense. We'll go down that path. However, now that Trevor Lawrence may not be playing for the immediate future, we should probably kick the Jaguars out of the playoffs, right? That apparently is what you do in college football. I don't care about college football. I really don't. I hope all these teams just never play anyone and they cancel the whole playoffs. Yeah, I know that sounds miserable, but when you grow up on the outskirts of New York City and the closest school to you is like Rutgers or something like that, you don't grow. You got 2 pro sports teams for every single sport. So college is just off your radar. But when you learn that a team goes undefeated, I don't care who you are, they got screwed. It's an absolute scam. That would be like kicking the Eagles out of the 1 seed the year they won the Super Bowl because their MVP candidate in Carson Wentz went down. Now, I really have no skin in that game, but the reason I got a scam sign hanging above my head is because I love talking about scams. Like, I went on Greg's account last night before I came on here. I saw that he thinks that the self-checkout line at supermarkets is an absolute scam. Of course it's a scam. It's an absolute scam, but kicking Florida State out. And I just heard them say nonchalantly, like, well, you know, you have to ask yourself, is it a season's worth of accumulation, or is it who's best right now? Oh, because that's how it works. A team who ends the NHL season on an 8-game winning streak, but is 14 games under 500, they should probably be the 3 seed. What an absolute scam that is. And remember, I have no ties to any of them. I hope they all lose. I don't care. But if you're somebody who's actually saying the way it should be, Florida State should actually be in it. And you never know. If Jake Browning can go out there and throw for 350, who knows what that whatever the hell it is, if he could come in there and have a good game against whoever they would have played. But that really is a scam. And my sniff, for lack of a better term, is that because it's the last year of this 4-team system, that they knew, because if they stuck with it and it was the same system, they would have broken that precedent that existed since they implemented this 4-team playoff, and everyone would have went nuts on them. That was the 1 year, but it's gone. So there are no repercussions because they'll never be put in this situation again. So all you Florida State people, I don't know, as a guy who knows what it's like to randomly get screwed in different facets of life, I feel your pain. But I would have said, I do know someone who's a Florida State fan, and what I told them is, you know, either for me, it was you get the 3 seed and play Washington, a winnable game, and you can kind of get into the final. But if you get the 4, I'd rather get screwed, because from what I've learned in my life, it's easier to live with being screwed than the dejection of being destroyed. Yes, that's right. I tell my brother this all the time. I'd rather the Islanders miss the playoffs than go in and get swept by the Rangers, which, I mean, that's something that would last for 50 years for me. I would never forget how I felt after getting swept by the Rangers. Missing the playoffs, guess what? Happened in 95, 6, 7, 8, and it all just blends together. You can just let go of that. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we talk some NFL. That's my opening rant that I really don't care about. So now I guess we'll bring on the supermarket scam himself, Greg, who we talked about supermarket sweep last time. Then I saw that on your profile last night. A lot of supermarkets here between me and you. But what do you want them to do? They make us do I've heard Bill Burr talk about that. Like, they make us their employee And then Maniscalco said these aren't easy. Like there should be training sessions. Like he said, he went in at 1 a.m. when it was empty one night and just ran a bunch of test items. But anyway, I saw that you were all over that game last night with that Lawrence injury. Why don't you tell us about that little funny thing that happened when you tweeted about Lawrence's injury last night?
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. Well, and although he was not the only player who got hurt for the Jaguars last night. So my understanding of what happened last night is so many players got hurt from the Jaguars. They had left tackle got hurt. They had Christian Kirk get hurt. Cornerback get hurt. Safety get hurt. They simply ran out of carts to drive people to the locker room. So they just didn't have any left. What are they going to do? Too many players got hurt. We see that in primetime games all the time. So Trevor Lawrence gets hurt and they go, hey, man, we're out of carts. You got to get yourself to the hospital. So he tries to walk himself to the hospital. It takes too long. He misses his MRI appointment, and they try to find him another appointment somewhere else. And we're waiting on the results to see how significant the injury is to Trevor Lawrence. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's just too many players getting hurt in football these days.
It's hilarious because one of the I'm not going to call it a pitfall because it's absolutely hilarious. There are some people who, yeah, I guess, when you text someone sarcasm, sometimes it doesn't come across. And I guess with Twitter and things like that, anything that's read in text, especially from an account you don't know, I guess it's taken as fact and as truth. But it really is amazing to me that somebody's mind can say, yeah, this guy Greg believes that Trevor Lawrence walked to the hospital and actually be serious. It's scary out there. We'll revisit that fact when we talk about some of the stuff that we put out there as a channel and the types of videos and whatnot. But you mentioned that Christian Kirk injury. They say you're never supposed to cheer for injuries. I know many people who have cheered for injuries in the past. You don't cheer for injuries because of the player. Absolutely not. We would never want that. But you can be honest, you semi-cheer. How about this? You cheer for players to be taken out of the game for miscellaneous reasons so you can then enjoy the trickle down of people who are complaining about having their bet refunded or voided or you name it. I get immense pleasure from you retweeting people's actual complaining tweets with tickets of your under props and then actually saying, you know what? This is right. No one took the, or whatever, I'm going to paraphrase, but nobody took the under. Let's all donate these to charity.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's Joker-esque. It's like watch the world burn type of tweets. It's absolutely hilarious. And I encourage you to keep doing them.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to help the people here in general, right? Because we see this happen all the time where a player gets hurt on the first play of the game, like Christian Kirk last night, for instance, and what happens? Everybody goes right to FanDuel and says, please void, because everybody won the bet and nobody wants to get paid out in that way. So I'm also just trying to contribute to that. And I share my bet ticket and I say, give the money to charity. Christmas time, give it but because nobody wants to win that way. And you see it constantly. Whenever a player gets hurt, please void, please void, please void. This is not how anybody wants their tickets to win. So I'm just contributing.
It's very magnanimous of you. It is such a nice thing for you to do. Void the overs, void the unders. It's just hilarious that, because when you retweet someone, they get that notification. And it's almost a double punch in the gut. They get the crack from losing the bet, and then their opinion looks way more idiotic when they realize they'd be screwing somebody who is on the other side of that. So in order for them to get what they want, they actually have to take your bet and eliminate it too. So it just subtly highlights their greed. And I just take immense pleasure from that because it's not like you have anything to gain other than holding up a mirror and showing somebody who they are. It's fantastic.
Well, so many people also think they are the main character of everything, right? Where people don't realize. So a player gets hurt and the initial reaction so many people have, well, this is rigged against me. This is screwed. It's the books working against them. They don't even realize there's another side of the bet that people could potentially win. So whenever they see a player leave the game, get hurt, anything along those lines, their initial reaction is everybody got screwed. there is no realization that every time somebody loses, there's somebody who wins on the other side as well.
Yeah, and usually the regulars are taking overs. People like yourself, and Ben was even saying like typically he's always looking for unders, and I think it's an extra added wrinkle like when the regular guys lose and they know guys like you who are just calmly, casually betting the smart thing, which is not something that most bettors, in my opinion, do. Most bettors are that guy in the left lane on the highway, not realizing that they're disturbing the clear flow of traffic. And you tweeted the other day, like it was right around Thanksgiving, you were looking, I don't know necessarily for suggestions, but what kind of content do you guys want to see? And I think just putting a question out there like that, in your mind, you're trying to do the right thing. Even with the content you're trying to put, I want to be beneficial to people who are watching these videos. But if you look out into the sea, it's animals out there. It's the majority are animals, and the few people who you're helping, it's a catch-22. They're extremely appreciative. It's like online when I would make these comedy parodies, I'd see somebody in person at a barbecue like, yo, that Game of Thrones parody you did was hilarious. I'm like, what do you mean? You didn't comment on it? You didn't like it? I would have no clue you even watched it. The regulars just absorb information and go about their lives. But the people who can actually prop up accounts, such as yourself, it's a catch-22. It's the gargoyles. It's the guys I call pirates. They want massive parlays, and it's a weird thing. You put out stuff that's going to help people the most. That's the stuff that's probably least likely to hit people's timeline, as you suggested in another one of your tweets. So it's something I'm going to also ask Dave about. How do you find that fine balance? I told you last time when you had a bunch of killers that you were releasing from Odd Shopper Premium, and you got like 1 out of 7 wrong, and then you saw the pirates came after you about the one that you got wrong. We're dealing with pirates here. How do we curtail it to get the best of both worlds? I've started in my videos doing, hey, regular guy, I got this for you. Hey, pirates, you ready? And it's like I divvy it up between the type of people that I'm dealing with. Like, how do you think we, all of us here, should navigate handling like what most people want, what's versus best for someone?
Yeah, it's really hard. And for me, this is what I'm doing. Like, I'm not going to tell somebody to go parlay because that's what they want to do. I'm just going to tell people this is what I'm doing. I try to educate them too. I'm working on a bunch of education material for Odd Shopper that's going to be going up in the YouTube channel a little bit. I've got my Discord channel where I'll bet stuff and I'll tell people why I'm betting something. So last night, for instance, DraftKings screwed up Malik Monk's 6 Man of the Year odds. I was looking at the app at the time that it happened where he went from like 8-1 to win 6 Man of the Year to 12-1 during game while he was playing really well. And he was like 6-1 at every other book. So it was just like a really clear pricing error. And I just tell people in the Discord, like, hey, this is what I'm betting. This is why I'm betting it. This line is not going to be available in the morning. And you could educate people and tell people why it is something is a good bet. So then not only are they getting the information from me, but then they're kind of armed also for the next time a situation arises, they might be able to find the bet for themselves as well. So I don't think I'm ever going to have the kind of content that the mass people want, because what people want, Andy, is they want losing bets that they think are winning bets, but they aren't really. And that's, you see the people with, and this isn't everybody, but the majority of the people with the biggest followings on Twitter that are putting out content that regularly gets engagements and a lot of people following them and stuff, it's not good information. And it's information that's going to actively lose people money and lose people money very quickly.
All right, well, here's what I'll do, okay? I'll act like I'm a good guy while this is not even the case whatsoever. I'll go out there and do the dirty work. I'll put out some pirates information. Then when eventually those followers make their way over to me for that, I'm like, all that stuff I told you, throw it out the window, and then I'm going to funnel them to you for good information. Because you steadily, night by night, straight bets, working your way up the charts. That's what everybody should do. But I feel like most people involved in the sports betting space a little closer to me, where this is my main area, and then a smaller percentage of the pie chart goes to sports betting. Now, I'd like to think I'm a little more clever than your average pirate, but I think, and if you're looking at a pie chart, the overwhelming majority of people are, for lack of a better term, closer to the casual section, and the casual section You know, that they kind of want to either hit something quick or miss. They'd rather like play the Mega Millions every week, you know, something like that. So, I mean, I'll do the best I can to push people toward you, but I know it's just something that you always got to weigh. And I know it can be infuriating. I remember when I was watching like these sketches on Instagram, like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it was like these overacted like situations when you were in your household weren't even remotely funny. I called it like Godzilla acting. Like there would be a guy seeing a girl walk by and he'd be like, and I'm like, who the fuck is laughing at this? Who's laughing? And I'm watching everybody go viral because, you know, they stuck someone's ass in there and then, you know, the zombies just followed those videos. So I understand as like, you know, I'm editing for 12 hours for, you know, 4% of what those, I called it cocaine content, did for people. So I do understand that. Now, Thursday, we got best matchup of the year.
Yep.
New England and the rest of the Belichick and the rest of the Patriots, and Mitch Trubisky, Pittsburgh. Many times I've told people that every game, if you have some action on it, is the season finale of Game of Thrones. The most boring game immediately becomes exciting if you have a little action on the line. And for games like this, where even though I watch a ton of football, think I know a decent amount, where the hell do I want to go? Yeah, someone could say, well, look how Trubisky played with Deontay Johnson in the past. But better time than any to actually utilize some of the analytics over at OddsShopper Premium. So if you don't mind sharing some of your pot of gold, if that's all right with you, if you can slip us something from there to wet our beaks.
Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll pull this up on my other screen over here. I do know that earlier in the week, we were projecting the under pretty well for that game. But what ends up happening, that number got lowered and bet so hard. So the total, what is it now at the time of recording, Andy? 30.5, if I'm not mistaken. 30.5, is that the total for Thursday Night Football?
I saw last night, right now we got
30. It's down to 30. Do you know the opening number was 41? So we had the under projected really well at one point in time, but obviously there's a massive difference between betting under 41 and under 30 for a Thursday night football game. Well, really for any game, it's a really big difference. And
wait, when did you get that?
I didn't bet that number.
No, I'm saying when was that number available?
I think
Roughly?
Sunday.
So even after the Pickett thing?
During the Pickett thing, because a lot of the primetime games, they have lines up in advance.
So, but we knew that Pickett was hurt when that 41 came out?
It was a line that was already out and was standing. So
gotcha.
he gets hurt, people start betting it, and then it eventually ends up coming down. But the people who the really, to give people like educational ways to treat some of these bets, what you should be doing if a player gets hurt, just instantly go and look for existing lines for these games and try to think how it might impact them. This used to be a really, really good way to bet NBA, and now books have gotten quicker at reacting to the news. But there was a point in time where every single day, we know the biggest NBA injury report drop is 1:30 Eastern time, where there's the big NBA injury report update. You used to be able to log on to FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever books you use at 1:30, and then just wait for the NBA injury report to update. And then you could look at that and be like, oh, Giannis is out today. He wasn't expected to be out. And you just bet against the Bucks that day. And the books wouldn't react for like 5 to 10 minutes. They're a lot quicker with that now. But there are still very often football games that will stay on the board during games that have already happened. And you could get the lines before they start to move. Something like DraftKings is doing with futures this year, where if you see a player get hurt during a game, the futures are up during the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defense Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. Those odds stay up at DraftKings all throughout Sunday, and you could bet based on injury news that's happened, and the book won't react to it for a little bit. So there are still ways to do it with football. It's a little harder with basketball now.
Yeah, I remember doing that with hockey in game during the playoffs with like a Stanley Cup odds, because I knew if a team was taking a certain game, like if they were down 2-1 in a series or something, you know, something earlier in the series, and they were the better team, they just happened to trail, and then the game was like they had like a 1-0 lead in the first period at home. Yeah, I would take that team to like win the Eastern Conference or something like that. So I guess when you put it, in terms of other sports, it makes sense. I just don't happen to do it as much. But yeah, this requires people to kind of be like Peyton Manning behind the line of scrimmage. You got to be viewing games. You got to be viewing injuries. You got to have that info coming in and then everything up. And I always say this to people like, oh, but I got to do all that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you have to actually do something to make some money? Oh, I thought I can just sit on my fat ass and wait till the last minute, click something, and I get a ton of money coming in. Gotta love that. I'm insulting people who don't exist, never said this to me, and I'm just inventing them in my head. So, I mean, hey, it happens. But should we fully stay away from that? Or do you think you have something that maybe you'll be partaking in on that Thursday game?
So
give us a little Game of Thrones.
One bet on Odd Shop Raider. There also aren't a lot of props up at the time that you and I are recording. It's a Tuesday afternoon for people who are wondering what time it is that we're talking about this. But Deontay Johnson does have an over-under 40.5 receiving yards. That is the one prop we have right now, is actually the over 40.5 receiving yards for Deontay Johnson.
I can see how upset it makes you. It upsets you that it's not an under. But then again, well, because now you're not going to be able to celebrate when he rolls his ankle in the third period and people are complaining for their voided bets.
Listen, I don't want players to get hurt, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy it when it happens.
Like I said, it's not you celebrating the injury. It's the types of people who are about to come out. It's like almost a flare gets shot up and out. It's like Michael Jackson's Thriller as he's walking past the graveyard. They all start coming out. And I like that now you have people who see the tweets and tag you. It's like you have mini minions who are searching for people who are going to relay that information to you. So I just know that I thoroughly enjoy it. Please, you're going to get someone he's going to be confrontational with you. He's going to ask what supermarket you're self-checking out at. You're pissed off and he's going to meet you there. He's going to meet you to check you out at that place. But please do not stop, because as a heckler and a guy who likes, riffing with people, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, the Void Parade is never going to end. It marches on, and it's bigger. It's bigger than me. This is a cause bigger than myself. This might be my purpose in life.
That's great to hear. Thanks so much for coming on, Greg. I wanted to talk to you about those things, and I appreciate the fact that you made the time.
Yeah, man, always. And also, if anybody is signing up to OddsShopper now, I do have my own Discord channel, so you could jump in and ask me questions, troll me, ask me which bets I like. So I'm in there now. I'm in Discord.
That's great to hear. You should definitely do that, because as you can see, if I was getting advice from someone and this was the majority of what I was doing to either, supplement or come up with an income, I would want somebody who's factoring in all these things and not doing a bunch of ludicrous bets. And I really would. Greg, I might actually start texting you here and there and say, I got to get this girl something on Christmas. Who might be able to help me out in this Denver Nuggets game? Would my Balkan brother Jokic be able to help me out? We'll see. But thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll do it again soon. Yep.
You're not going to get my phone number, but appreciate it.
No problem. Not the first time or last time someone said that to me. But we'll bring on the new Papa, Dave, who had a nice week off. So I got a couple weeks worth of stuff to catch up with him on. Yo. And I brought this up last week. And you're my go-to Philly guy. You always have a reasonable disposition. Before we talk about the Eagles, forget about that. I wanted to know if you saw the clip of the Eagles kid. I brought this up to Eitan, who went up to the Bills fan, did the fake handshake, and then not the middle finger to the face. And it was the latest installment of the series of Philly fans that I love, the ones that I thought would give them, and I still think would give them, if the time comes to it, an advantage in an NFC championship game. But you enjoyed the mutant tweet last time. Somebody uploaded that video. We got another tweet, if you can pull that one up, Mike, of yet another person out there extremely displeased with your community out there. And what are the words he used? Do you have that one, Mike? Do you need me to resend it?
Here we go. I got you.
All right, cool. What a disgusting part of the country. The people think meanness is a virtue. I understand that Philadelphia is poverty-stricken and downtrodden. Oh, what a great individual. What a upstanding citizen. Meanness claims that meanness is a virtue. That's what he thinks of the people of Philly, and then proceeds to do just that. But it's not excuse for people's despicable behavior. What do we think about this one? Another one? Do we got to save these all in a collections folder?
Man, come on, dude. This guy looks like he hasn't seen the sunlight since 1985.
Oh my God. Him and Nick Lepre hanging out on Sundays.
Are we taking this guy at face value? Stop it. No. That's ridiculous.
No, he's using one of those Sports Illustrated AI images I was reading about 2 weeks ago. Did you see that? Where they don't have real people writing their articles?
No, but is that the picture you want to? That's not fair. I can't be using ad hominem personal attacks like that.
Look at that guy.
I could go a lot of different ways on this one.
Substitute teacher. That was the guy who didn't get cast in Ferris Bueller. They went with Ben Stein, but that was the replacement if Ben Stein declined. The Bueller.
I could go a lot of different ways on this one. It would get me in trouble.
Same.
Come on, we all know what I'm thinking. But
what? Ellen DeGeneres' brother? Who is it?
Don't worry about it. Anyway, these people don't get it, man. You know, it's funny too, because my friends were all calling me a pussy because I was like, I didn't love the kid I didn't love the kid throwing the middle finger. I didn't love it. I didn't like if it's fun. If that were my kid, I think I would kind of be upset with them. I'd be like, I raised you better than this. But I also understand the whole getting into the heads and all that stuff. It didn't resonate with. That's what I was saying. Sometimes I stray from the pack. You know what I mean?
No, that's fine.
So when I see garbage tweets like this, just first of all, the whole like poverty stricken this and that. So what? Now you're just going to blanket statement an entire area and insult everybody that's not even an Eagles fan. But yeah, look, poverty stricken and downtrodden, but that's no excuse for its people's despicable behavior. Oh, look. Actually, people was in quotes, so he doesn't even consider them people.
Oh my God.
You didn't catch that one, huh?
Oh my God. I do want to say the reason I had no problem bringing that clip up. Buffalo fans are scumbags. The guy smiled back. The Buffalo fan would have been disappointed if it was an actual handshake.
Yeah, that was cool. That's the one thing where I wish they didn't cut the clip. They cut the clip real soon on that though. But you know what I mean? It didn't last very long. I did think the same thing. I was like, that is actually like, he looked down at that kid and went, I respect you, you know, and I can appreciate that.
Of course. Sure. Yeah. And that's the weird thing about like people that they really shit on the way the Northeast works. But that same type of mindset creates like connections that I would never see in Southern California. So the downside is the low seems pretty low, but like the relationships and like the brotherhood between scumbags is something to behold. So, you know, I always want to, anytime an interesting quote, you know, there's tons of Philly hatred, but when someone really comes out with a good one, that's when I try to call it to your attention. You know, we've checked in with these Eagles many times throughout the season. I said a couple weeks back to you, and I still maintain this. The Eagles looked like a team who are playing with a couple game cushion. It's just hard to make yourself believe, other than the Niners talking trash. But man, is that one seed going to remain important?
Yeah.
Because yes, it worked out for Purdy and them. Guess what? Eagles score on those first two drives. Let's see Purdy orchestrate a 14-point comeback. And let's see if in like late January, right? That NFC championship would be all the way at the end of January. And you're talking about like 20-something degrees in Philadelphia. It ain't going to look exactly the same. And who knows how injuries will play a part along the way. So by hook or by crook, the Eagles have to find a way to get through Sunday because their schedule is pretty easy after that. And then that would allow them to get that rematch at home. But one slip up along the way, then the only out that I see is if Lamar Jackson can go into San Fran and potentially beat them. So
which is possible.
You guys gotta. It is.
Lamar doesn't lose against NFC teams either, which is pretty crazy. I mean, he has a phenomenal track record against them. You look at the Dallas Cowboys schedule, that's difficult to close out the year, no doubt about it. Eagles have Giants, Cardinals, Giants. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, I said this defense is a paper tiger from the jump. Mike will tell you, I say it all the time. I mean, sure, I'm a little bit more pessimistic than some that, might border in the realm of realistic and just expecting bad things to happen, but they don't tackle. The linebackers, sure, you get maybe some reinforcements there with Shaq Leonard, but I don't know. Here's what I can tell you. I jumped on Sunday night. I tweeted this one out that, and it was popping on OddsShopper. It was our top bet that the over 49.5 jumped up on FanDuel. I think it was like minus 115 at the time. Right when these lines for week 14 came out, and I hammered it and tweeted to anybody that wanted to know that, I anticipate this one coming up considerably, and woke up the next morning, that 49.5 was 53. So what you're seeing is the expectation that this will be a high scoring game on Sunday night, right? You're looking at a Philadelphia Eagles defense that has really struggled to stop anybody at this point. They've allowed 27 passing touchdowns, second most behind only the Commanders, who have been terrible in that sense. And the run defense is good, but we saw what Dak Prescott did. Dallas probably should have won that game against the Eagles a few weeks back, heading into the Eagles bye. So I like the Eagles and Cowboys over when it was at 49. This is why you have to get in early on these. I don't know where Greg saw the 41. I think he might have been thinking of a different game. By the way, some of the knowledge he was spitting before me was fantastic. You should soak up every bit of that. I don't know where he saw the 41 because I bet under 35 on the Patriots-Steelers game on Friday before Sunday, and that's down to 30. Pretty. I think you could say I benefited from the Pickett injury and the Ramondre Steven injury, but being able to jump in on these lines early, you have to do that even if the bets lose. If you're getting closing line value, 5 points from 35 to 40, getting 49.5 over when it's 53.5 in some spots, long-term, over time. And I know Greg touched on this a little bit too, just as far as like plus EV betting goes, that's going to go a really long way for you. You can't look at it individually, look at it over time. When you're getting that value, you're going to win.
100%. Like I remember, man, 6 weeks ago, you got the Niners against Cleveland with Watson.
No, it wasn't that. It might. No, it was clear. I don't think
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was Niners going into Cleveland. Watson in the beginning of the week. It's like, oh yeah, he was playing.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It was Cleveland at home against the Cardinals when we thought Clayton Tune might start, not knowing about Kyler Murray, and we grabbed Cleveland at like -7, and they closed at 13 or something.
Well, I don't know how you feel about friendly wagers, but I feel like I'm about to make a friendly wager.
You'll be wrong. I'll guarantee it. We talked
you're going to go Men's Warehouse on me?
We talked about San Francisco, and I'm pretty sure that was when we didn't know if Deshaun Watson was going to play. And I was like, I might just stay away from this one. Go back, Mike, pull it out of the archives. Cleveland at home against Arizona.
I do know that we talked about that. There was one where the opposing quarterback, we didn't have the news yet.
They're both applicable, and they both go towards what we're saying either way.
Yeah. And the reason I think it's the Niners is because you took the Niners and then Watson was ruled out and the Niners spread went to like 13 and they ended up losing regardless to PJ Chalker. Man, this is going to be funny. How can I remember all that?
It's wrong.
I mean, you got to understand, you're telling me that I've just made up I get if it's one thing. That would be a multiple step lie. Oh man, we're going to check the archives and we'll pull it after this. But anyway, stick with my fake story for now. Let's theoretically suppose that you took San Fran at Cleveland and Deshaun Watson was like 50-50 and you got the Niners at -5. Then they went up to minus 11. And guess what? The original one still lost, but it's still fantastic value. And like what Dave said, over time, you're going to be so glad. Yeah, once in a while, of course you go, oh yeah, thanks for getting me on it early. Don't be a scumbag. You absolutely know that you were happy. When that game kicked off, you were calling your friends, saying how smart you were, and you, like us, both know that it's way better to get something like that beforehand. And to take this to its extreme, you ever been that guy who bets right before the game starts? Maybe you lost at the end of the 4 o'clocks or something like that. Your DFS lineups got screwed because the game went to overtime. You were in the money, but because that one went to overtime, it pulled you out of the money. So then you start panic betting that late game. The points, the totals on like Calvin Ridley, I'm pretty sure he went all the way up to like 58 before the game. I saw him in low 50s when the week started. So the opposite of the point we're making is if you bet last second, you're screwed. So now just take the inverse of that. So,
yeah,
you know, they
unless sometimes something moves a little far in one direction where you're like, okay, I'll buy, I'll buy the other side now. But oftentimes, to your point, yes, look, one of the risks that you run is if you're betting stuff early, like injury news and all, like I'm saying with this Patriots and Steelers spot, I don't care if this game scores 100 points. If I'm getting it at 35, under 35, and it closes at 30, lowest total since 1993, by the way, I'm okay losing that. I'm not going to lose sleep over something like that because the risk you take is, all right, I bet that on Thursday or Friday. I don't know. It's on Twitter somewhere. I bet that on Thursday or Friday. My dumbass on paternity leave mistakenly thought it was a Monday night football game. Not that it even mattered, right? It was Thursday night. But I bet that last week, and you had to pick it. You had the Robert Madre Stevenson. I think it still would have come down, honestly. Like we
need a better term for paternity leave. We just need a cooler time.
I'll tell you, I got a better one for you. I was in hell. How's that? How's that, dude? You asked me, you're like, I hope you're enjoying the time with the family. So straight up, I'm not. No,
it's right around Thanksgiving. I'm like, man, I get you appreciate misery more than most, but really, I'd be a prick to say like, yeah, I'm sure you're having a great time with the birth of that second kid on Thanksgiving. Yeah. I imagine your life is exhilarating right now. So
fortunately, my wife is awesome. My wife's great. Like she'll just, she's a warrior in that respect. So she like. My life hasn't changed that much. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you ever see the meme of the woman delivering birth and the guy is just eating the pizza in the foreground?
Yeah.
Yo, that's an all-timer.
Jim Gaffigan has a great bit where he's like, yeah, dads are basically like the backup quarterbacks. They're part of the team, but not really, like they're never really there. And then when something happens and they are called into the game, sure, they could do it, but everyone's a little bit nervous. And that's exactly like, is there any better description of that? It's perfect.
That's actually pretty hilarious. Well, sometimes you get Jake Browning throwing for 350. Maybe I think that's you, man.
That was crazy. Yeah, I was on the under. I was on the Jags. I was also in the video I did. I was on Evan Ingram over receptions and Evan Ingram anytime touchdowns. So we ended out, we were on top, but man, I at no point was I anywhere close on the side or the total. That game just took off from the jump, man.
It was good to see. I have 2 quick fantasy questions. No, from what we've had to deal with on Thursday Night Football for the majority
and what we're going to deal
year.
with on Thursday.
Seriously. Well, maybe that sparked the upturn of an effort approach. Like you saw the Bengals just go for it on the very first down. They had an aggressive approach. Maybe we'll see some. Actually, what are we talking about? Tomlin and Belichick. They'll be happy to run that thing to a 6-3 final. But with fantasy, it was something that I wanted to mention last week when the Bills played the Eagles and that field goal to tie the game at the end of it. Just an absurd field goal, by the way. It was like a direct line. It's unbelievable how he comes up with these big time field goals. Tell me, these reaction videos, somebody at a game, they always love filming themselves when things are going well. DraftKings needs to incentivize people who are in the top 5 and top 3 in tournaments with tons of money on the line to record, to leave a camera there. Do you know what I would do to watch the people who were like in the million, and that overtime sent them to probably $500 total?
I knew you were going to say you don't want to see the exuberance. You want to see the misery and the pain.
You think when I watch the prices, right? Oh, he got the dollar. I want to see how people handle adversity. That's it. Sure. I don't root for people to lose. I want to see how people handle adversity.
Here's the problem: you can't live stream that. You can't live stream that.
Why not? Well, because of the audio and whatnot. But you absolutely can.
What if there's a loaded gun in the house?
Yeah, it's just for anybody who's played these tournaments, or anybody if you're unfamiliar with it. In the beginning, it just seems like, oh my God, when you start getting to the top of the top,
yeah,
one catch is 2,000 more, another catch 5,000 more, and when you start getting to like top 5, you're talking about tens of thousands with each catch. So that whole game, everybody there on the top watched everything go away one catch at a time in overtime. Yeah. I can't think of a more miserable existence. And we had which game just went to the one last night went to overtime, so you know that wasn't a part of the main slate. But to see that Bills-Eagles game go to overtime, man, I can only imagine. The best show around would be stories of people like you've heard about bad beats in poker. That's not really interesting. The types of terrible beats that have taken people out of the millionaire are probably astronomical.
No, I know.
Every week, a penalty, like
I know of many of them. I worked with a guy who was in first for the Millie, and every other game was over. All he needed, I think it was the Cardinals and Jaguars. He's winning. There's 5 seconds left, and the game is out of reach. Okay, so the team kicking off to the other team was up by multiple scores, and believe the Jaguars received the kick. Could have been the other way around, but that's unimportant. Received the kick, and all it needed to happen just to end the game. Wins $1 million, right? And mind you, a lot of these breaks are $1 million down to 100,000. Won 100,000, but that is still like most people go, oh, stop complaining. Sure, we all get that, right? Like it's still 6 figures, but it was $1 million, and all he needed was for an end in a meaningless last play. They tried some lateral stuff, fumbled. The opposing team recovered it, and the guy behind him had their defense. And the 2-point fumble recovery flipped spots, and he was out of the millie on the final play, not only of the game, but of the entire day. That was a big one.
Wow.
It was a big one.
You know what? I might rescind what I don't know if I want to see that guy. That's like when I think of this happening, I think of it happening in like not top 10 music, like funny fashion. That's debilitating, man. That one hurts me just hearing about it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they're tough. I mean, look, it's not easy to win everything needs to go right. You know,
lottery ticket.
Yeah, everything needs to go right. Even though the Millie Maker winner had Zach Moss this week, but so did everybody else.
You know, if the second straight week or third straight week, you know, what I'm starting to do is keep track of the optimal lineup. It was almost until Debo got that third touchdown. It was a unstacked Brock Purdy with two receivers from Indianapolis. Without that third Debo touchdown, the optimal stack was non-existent. It was
Alec
Purdy
Pierce in that?
Yeah. Yes. Oh. Pearson Pittman.
Wow.
So after we just saw that take down the millionaire, although the optimal lineup for that week actually did have Lawrence with Ridley, it's crazy how many times that's been available this year. I mean, I guess as you get to higher priced receivers and whatnot, but that was pretty crazy to see. I have one hypothetical that I wanted to ask you. Now, you know, when it comes to season long, you kind of graduate out of it once you start getting into all this other stuff. But usually there's that one league that you care about with like your hometown friends or something like that. I want to tell you a predicament and ask you what you think about this. So I'm currently the 2 seed, which means I get a bye. If I win, I can keep that 2 seed and get a bye. The issue is in my first game, which would be after the bye, I'd be playing the other guy of the most points in the league, the guy with the second most points in the league, and by far the biggest threat to me winning the thing. If I tank that game, it adds an extra playoff game with a guy who has the scam amount of points, and he just lost Brian Robinson, his 14-team league, and he just lost Christian Watson, and I have an ultra-stacked team. So do I add an extra playoff game to my schedule to avoid the side of the bracket that has the highest % chance of eliminating me, despite the fact that I only have to play 1 game to get to the final? So either 1 game gets you to the final against the other stacked team, or 2 games against extremely inferior opponents.
I'd probably still play for the 1 game. Because it's fantasy football. Like anything can happen. And like, you could go out there and lose to the inferior opponent.
Yeah, I know.
I've had so many times. There's one dynasty league where, my roster was fine and I would kind of tread water throughout the season. I'd get in a 12-team league as like the, 4, 5, or 6 seed, and then won the championship 2 out of 3 years before they shut it down. And all that happened was I caught fire in the playoffs. That stuff happens far too often. Like I still remember, it was an Amari Cooper team, a George Kittle team, an Aaron Jones team. Like all those guys were on there. And throughout the season, they had quiet weeks, and they're up and down. Yeah. And then they caught fire. You couldn't stop me. I end up winning all of it. To put myself in a position where it's like, yes, I'm facing an inferior opponent, but I'm also well aware that this is a game where any given week. I mean, think about the guys that could be one of the highest scorers, but somehow they're like 500 at the end of the season because they just ran into a buzzsaw every week, even if that team was nowhere near as good as theirs. I don't want to risk that for an additional week.
Yeah. But once you start getting to like 14-team leads, the disparity and they have to start some bad players. They have to start some really bad players. So when you're talking about injuries, you're talking about Rondale Moore being a starter. It's
tough,
I
get it.
I'm currently leaning towards the other direction because if you saw that, like this there's 2 teams who are ultra stacked, me and one other guy, and I'll fucking be livid if I breeze through the season and then just lose to the one guy. And then there's the ethics question. How are people going to feel about that if I bench Dak Prescott in the late game to kind of throw it away?
Well, why is the seeding working like that where you'd have to play the second best team in the first in the
Well, I can tell he's going to end up in the
4th spot.
He's going to end up in 3, but if I miss the playoffs, he'll get bumped down to 4 and we'll stay out of it. And if I'm the 2 seed, 2 always gets the winner of 3-6 in a standard bracket.
Right.
And 1 gets the winner of 4-5. So it's me taking myself out of the 2 into the 3 because that will guarantee him in the 4.
Well, it's definitely an ethics thing. I mean, I would assume other people wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I mean,
but it's me trying to win. It's me trying to win. It's not me. Oh, I'm colluding with that.
Exactly.
I'm trying to win. And
look, if the teams are that bad, then I guess go for it. If they're that much worse than the other one, I'd say go for it. But kind of, it's still similar. Like I'd love to, if we have more time, you put odds on what your win percentage is for each of those 2 compared to 1, and whether or not it makes sense to do something like that.
I understand that if you actually look at the 2-game thing, even if I had a 70% chance of winning both and then a 53% chance of winning the other one,
the other one's still better.
But if you look at it individually, you're going to go, oh, you're going to crush him. Oh, you're going to crush him. And if you're looking at my one, you go, pfft.
Right.
I
get it.
It's weird. I guess sometimes, the numbers, I don't know. I'll let you know how it turns out. If there are football gods, I'm losing. If there are football gods, I'm absolutely losing. But we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. If there's football gods and you tank to face the worst team, he's going to have the week of a lifetime for sure. We know, there's no question.
I can hedge. I'll bet all his players on. I'll check Odd Shopper Premium. I'll see who his best players are, and I'm going overs on all of them.
Just full hedge. I love it.
Yeah. Yo, thank you so much for coming on, man. And I do know, I was mostly just joking around. I'm very happy, that everything's going well, and adding another kid into the fold. You can't just have one, or else, they're going to be spoiled. They're going to think everything's going to come their way. They need somebody heckling them.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I don't want. Look, man, I know a lot of great people that are only children. Ben Rassa being one of them. My friend, a lot of guys I work with, but only child syndrome's a real thing. Let's not lie.
Well, congrats, man. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely do it again, and be on the lookout for me going through these conversations.
Absolutely. If I come across them, I'll hit you up as well. And next week, I got a few things next week that I'm going to throw your way on top of that.
I'm leaning towards you being correct, simply because I run my mouth so much that maybe something has slipped from my mind. But I think you took San Fran against Cleveland.
You'd be wrong, but go find it and we'll talk.
All right.
Just all right. First thing you do, just go back to the week we did the show with Cleveland and Arizona, and then pull my spot up.
I'll find it.
And Cleveland did win that game by, I think they won like 24-0 or something, 27-0. We'll talk.
I like you too much to it. The thing is, even if I'm right, you know how even when you're right against some people, but you like them, so it's like, all right, whatever. I wish I kind of hated you a little more, so that I could be really excited.
I want you to have supreme confidence. Because
it's not that. It's the enjoyment. If I'm right, you're one of those people. I'm not like, you motherfucker. I got.
Yeah,
it's
it
not,
makes
you're
sense.
Not somebody. You're not that guy from that tweet. You're not that AI image.
Guy from the tweet. Yeah. Well, I'll be awaiting your direct messages.
All right, my man. Take it easy. Have a good week. All right. Thank you so much for coming back, ladies and gents. I really do appreciate it. As you can see, it would behoove you to get yourself over to OddsShopper Premium if you do take this stuff. So you can be a pirate. Oh, you could be out there in the rough seas with Jack Sparrow, but he lives a tough life. So if you're ready to live that Sparrow life, you can continue to do it on your own, or you can check out all that stuff on OddsShopper Premium. I know on my NHL video today, OddsShopper Premium found an over 6 for the Rangers Sens game. I mean, you think about how the Sens have been playing, especially with the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers just gotten a crazy 6-5 game with the Sharks. The Sens are always prone to what I call ruckus games overs. The fact that they found an overs, I didn't even know that. I looked at a few and I saw 6.5. I would never even known that one of the books was offering at over 6 for a good price. So, it definitely is giving you a good advantage on multiple sports, not just the NFL. So definitely check that out. Like the guys said, I will be back with you next week for another round of tomfoolery. Week 15, it will be the beginning of those playoffs. I'll let you know what I decide when it comes to that fantasy league. And if anyone from that league is watching, I was just joking. This was all for entertainment. It's not real. I would never do such a thing. I will talk to you guys next week. Take it easy.